What is up, Craig here. Today we are doing a read out loud of Captain Underpants and the terrifying return of Tippy Tinkle Trousers. Now, again, I'm about to say first in case Morales something. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong, but I'll put it on the screen. But he told me he told me to do a read out loud. So shout out to that person. So let's get right into this. Whoa. The super top secret truth about Captain Underpants. Once upon a time, a while ago, there was two cool kids named George and Harold. But the bomb pops. Me too. But they had a really mean principal named Mr. Crump. Blah, 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 and stuff. So they hypnotized him. You obey us. Yeah, okay. You are now Captain Underpants. Groovy. Mr. Crump really thought he was Captain Underpants. Tra-la-la. And he got in lots of trouble. Another time, he almost got ate up by some talking toilets, and George and Harold had to save them again. Eat this. I am a hero. I forget to read this. What's time? Dr. Diaper kind of kidnapped him, because it's kind of like that. So, yeah, George and Harold had to save him. Booyah, bye-bye. Rats, I'm free. Haha. No. And then this other time, a bunch of zombie nerds attack. Captain Underpants drank some superpower juice, and he got superpowers. Then he saved George and Harold. It's about time. Here's the worst part. Whenever Mr. Crump hears somebody snap their fingers, blah, 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 snap, he turns into Captain Underpants, tra-la-la, and whenever Captain Underpants gets wet, splash, he turns back to Mr. Crump, blah, blah, blah. So whatever you do, do not snap your fingers out at Mr. Crump. Seriously, dudes. Ixnay on the snapping, say, pig Latin. And if you see Captain Underpants saving the world, hide the H2O. Quick, nobody pour water on his head. Chapter 1, George and Harold. This is George Beard and Harold Hutchins. George is the kid on the right with the tie and the flat top. Harold's the one on the left with a t-shirt and a bad haircut. Remember that now. When our last adventure ended, George and Harold were being escorted to jail. The police had discovered surveillance photos showing the two boys robbing a bank with Captain Underpants, of course. We all know that George and Harold and Captain Underpants were innocent. It was the evil twins who had robbed the bank, but the police hadn't bothered to read the last book, so they really didn't know what was going on. All they knew was George and Harold looked a lot like the two kids in the surveillance photo, so the cops yelled, "Freeze!" and grabbed George and Harold, then told the two boys of their terrible fate. Suddenly, a gigantic pair of robotic pants appeared from out of nowhere, and the terrifying Tippy Tinkle Trousers emerged from the zipper and zapped the cops with their X-ray. And chased George and Harold and their two pets, Crackers and Zulu, far into cavernous depths in the lower right-hand corner of page 17. If we read our last epic novel, which I did, you know that this is how the story ended, but that's not was supposed to end. You see, Tippy and his zapping robotic trousers were supposed to be there at all. Weren't supposed to be there at all. They could have come from the future and really interrupted what was supposed to happen. Unfortunately, the Tippy, on the simple act of sending himself backwards through time, would ended up in a terrible mistake. A mistake that would ultimately lead to the destruction of our entire planet, more or less. But before I can tell you that story, I have to tell you this story. Chapter 2, The Banana Cream Pie Paradox. Time machines are awesome, there's no doubt about it, but they can also be very dangerous. It's possible that a person could go back in time and accidentally change one little thing, and that one teeny tiny itsy bitsy thing could powerfully affect the future. And this is what scientists refer to as the banana cream pie paradox. The banana cream pie paradox. Please follow along with these handy explanations. Imagine if you were a scientist from the year 2020 baked a banana pie using bananas that were harvested from his very own banana tree. Well, let's suppose now that this scientist took his banana cream pie into a time machine which stepped him and the pie back into the near 1936. Now imagine the scientist stepped out of the time machine and accidentally tripped, smashing his pie into a fancy lady sitting in a fancy garden party. Now suppose that the lady jumped up angrily, wiped a handful of gooey banana cream pie filling from her face, and threw it into the scientist. The scientist ducked, causing the banana goo to smack into the face of a gentleman standing nearby. A waitress pointed at the gentleman and laughed. The angry gentleman wiped the goo from his face and smooshed it into the waitress' face. Well, the waitress have never been so insulted in all my life, said the waitress. I'll get out more, lady. No, said a wise guy. Why don't you mind your own business, bird brain, said another man, as he poked the wise guy in his eye. The wise guy fell backward and landed on the scientist's banana tree, which was just a tiny sapling in 1936. The banana tree snapped in half and died. Now, the scientist's banana tree died in 1936. It never grew up, and produced bananas. Therefore, the scientist will not have the main ingredient he used to make his banana cream pie in the year 2020. Consequently, the banana cream pie could not exist. So it's blurry. Sorry if I haven't showed the last peel. Many scientists throughout the centuries have pondered the banana cream paradox and had to come to the conclusion that people should be really careful when they use a time machines, because one simple change in the past could affect the future and even possibly destroy our planet, entire planet. Chapter 3, the real ending to our last adventure. As we already saw in Chapter 1, George and Harold were being taken to jail when Tippy Tinkle Brothers traveled back through time and interferes. But what if have happened if he haven't showed up? And what was supposed to happen? Before Tippy so rudely interrupt them, well, sit back and get comfortable because you're about to find out. The police chief and his right-hand man, Officer Mick Wiggly, handcuffed George Beer and Harold Hutchins and George Beer, shuffled them into the back of the police car. You have got the wrong guys, cried Harold. We didn't rob that bank. It's true, said George. That bank was robbed by our evil twins from an alternate universe. Yeah, right, said Officer McWillie. If I had a nickel for every time I heard that excuse. On the way to jail, the cops drove past Mr. Krupp, who was busy cleaning up the soggy toilet paper in his yard. Hey, shouted the police chief. That's the guy who robbed the bank with those kids. Let's get him, yelled Officer McWillie. No sales. Do not smell flowers. Private property. Do not read the sign. Do not disturb. The cops slammed the brakes, grabbed Mr. Krupp, handcuffed him, and threw him into a back seat of a car along with George and Harold. The trials lasted for a nearby year, and George and Harold and Mr. Krupp were all found guilty. They were each sentenced to 10 years of incarceration. This unusually harsh sentence was tough on George and Harold, but it was really hard on Mr. Krupp. Oh my God, it's small print. I'm not going to read that. Chapter 4, Life in a Big House. Poor Mr. Krupp. He had locked up in the Piqua State Penitentiary for months, and all life of a jailbird wasn't his thing. All day long, he had people bossing him around. He ate naturally deficient, horrible tasting meals in a filthy cafeteria. He got harassed consistently by a bunch of meat-headed bullies, and he spent his days busy working in a overcrowded, poorly ventilated sweatshop. Mr. Krupp was told when he read and when he wanted to exercise. He even had to ask permission to go to the bathroom. He was constantly bombarded with pointless rules, ridiculous discipline, random searches, metal detectors, security cameras, and pharmaceuticals, something designed to make everyone complain and docile. It was a lot like being a student at Jerome Hort's elementary school, except that the prison had better funding. Mr. Krupp grumbled angrily to himself as he stomped around the prison courtyard. On a gloomy autumn afternoon, in the center of the courtyard, a giant green tarp shielded everyone's eyes from something large and tall that was being built in honor of the Piqua State Penitentiary's upcoming 10-year anniversary. Everyone assumed it was going to be some kind of statue, but since nobody had seen the top of the same project, not even the warden, no one was quite sure what it was. I'm sick of this place, Mr. Krupp muttered to himself. Everyone was always telling me what to do if one more person gives me another order. And I think I'm going to go crazy. Hey, fatty, shouted any tiny inmate working behind the green tarp. Give me that hammer over there. Mr. Crumb clenched in his fists fiercely. You can't tell me what to do, he screamed. You're a prisoner just like I am. I most certainly am nothing like to you, the tiny prisoner said the tiny prisoner. It was Tippy Tinkletrotters who was serving an 8-year sentence for attempting to take over a planet with intent to enslave humanity. Wait a second. Alright, I gotta get one thing. Alright, I will cut that out, but... Alright, we're back. Mr. Crab rolled up his sweaty sleeves and stomped over the pint-sized prisoner. He eyed Tippy up and down. Tippy eyed Mr. Crab down and up. Hey, Mr. Crab shouted, you look kind of familiar. I agree, said Tippy, but I can't quite remember you. I've seen you before. The two men walked over in slow circles around each other. Well, whoever you are, Mr. Crab said, you got no business bossing me around. I'll have you know, said Tippy, that I'm more than just a regular prisoner. I'm an artiste. I was handpicked to build a a statue by Warden Smorden. Suddenly, a little round man peered his boneless, damp speckled his head out from behind the green tarp. Did somebody just say my name? He asked excitedly. It was the warden, Gordon B. Smorden, the guardian-in-chief of jailer of Pikewell State Penitentiary. Warden Smorden was known far and wide his cruelty and strictness. He once sentenced a prison to the year of solitary confinement just for ending a sentence with a proposition. Warden Smorden was undoubtedly the most manically evil person anyone had ever met. But the injurious jailer had one fatal weakness. He was easily flattered, and the weakness was exactly what Tippy Tinkletrotters used to talk his way into making a giant statue of Warden Smorden to commemorate the 10-year anniversary of the Pikewell State Penitentiary. Just leave everything to me, said Tippy. To start out the project, I'll construct the most stunningly handsome statue you have ever seen. Really? Said the warden. Really? Said the warden. Can you make it extra tall and extra handsome? Of course, said Tippy. Wonderful, wonderful, he cried the warden. How soon can you get started? As soon as I get my supplies, said Tippy. He handed the warden carefully written a list of tools and materials. Hey, said the warden, looking over the list, why do most of these supplies come from the mad scientist mini-mall? What do you need from an insanely emulsifying salsifying inhibitor for? And what kind of statue will use a reverse subglotine check for make fractionizer? You know, said Tippy, I don't tell you how to run a prison, so don't tell me how to build my statue. Fair enough, said the warden smartly. Now, we are going to stop at chapter 5. So, yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure to stay out for part 2, and I see you all next time. Bye.